Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live. How are all of you? We welcome you from all around the world. We hope that you are getting ready for some exciting conversation and inspiring conversation and all the other thought-provoking things that we deliver to you here on our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. Everybody watching all around the world, this is your Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series that we've been doing week after week after week. And now it's unbelievable. Over 230 episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live have been coming your way night after night. And we love doing this. This has been absolutely sensational. We come to you live from our home studio here in the Northeastern United States, in the greater New York area, between New York and Boston, along the southern New England coast, with inspiration, light, love, levity, and as we call it, lovity. That's right. Lovity is a word we've coined here on the show that happened by accident. Those who have been following the show religiously, and so many of you do, faithful lovities, we thank you very much for your viewership and your support of the show by watching and sharing the links and telling everybody about the Jim Masters Show Live, which again is born out of my work as a television and radio host, presenter, personality, writer, producer, stage MC, voiceover narrator, and voiceover artist, and so much more, journalist, actor. And we started the show in late April, early May, and we've been doing it just about every single day of the week. Just took about a week or so between Christmas and New Year's for time with family. And then I think we had some inclement weather, tornado or something came through in the fall, so we took that night off. And but we've been going strong, and sometimes we do 2 shows a day, like we're going to be doing this weekend on Saturday, because we have guests that come from overseas where it's later time zones. So we accommodate by doing an extra show for them. Thanks for all the comments, the tagging, the sharing, the liking, the loving. We really appreciate it. And we've been paying attention to that. And it means the world to me that you watch the show. And I know many of you have been saying that it's been helping you get through these times that we've been experiencing since last year that have sort of carried into the new year. Well, as long as we're here together, as long as you're enjoying the light, love, levity, and lovity that we create with our extraordinary guests, also who come from television and film and Broadway and Hollywood and science and nature and health and wellness, as well as brilliant artists and authors and comedians, chefs, sports people. I mean, it's a traditional talk show that is patterned after the old school talk shows, you know, Carson and Dick Cavett and David Susskind and Merv Griffin and Mike Douglas, Dick Clark, with some of the modern sensibilities and modern cool vibe of today. So that's what we do here. We do it every single day on the Jim Masters Show Live. And you're joining us for the first time. Boy, do we welcome you. It's good to have you with us. In just a second or so, our viewers are going to welcome you as a lovity. Now, I already told my very special guest, Melanie Choukas-Bradley, who's live and direct in Washington, D.C. right now. She's an award-winning naturalist writer, teacher, and certified forest therapy guide. We're going to explain what all of that is, the brilliant and incredible and exciting work that she gets to do that I love. If you're in touch with nature and you love nature and your surroundings, you're going to love the conversation we have. She's also the author of many, many books as well about the subject and so much more. And she does a lot of work in and around the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. So obviously that's been in the news lately. And we'll touch upon some of the work that she's done in and around the Capitol. And she hails from beautiful Vermont. She makes her life in D.C. And we're going to welcome her in just a second to the show. First, let's welcome some of our fabulous lovity viewers. That's what they're called. Our lovity viewers here. This is incredible. Again, she's coming up in just a second. Can't wait to welcome her to the show. But let's welcome all of you, like Kathy Short in Cleveland. Good evening, Jim and Lovities. I hope you had a good day. Now, I've already informed our guest about Lovity, and I told her the whole story about how Lovity happened and how Lovity is what this show is. One of the things that this show is about. She fell in love with lovity. She says, I love that word. Bring it on. So we love that. I think everybody loves the lovity vibe here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Good to see you in Cleveland, Kathy, and in Pine Island, Florida. Mary Bishop. Hello, Jim and lovity friends. I hope that all is well this Thursday evening. Absolutely, my friend. Christine Clifton in North Carolina. Hi, Jim and lovities. welcome naturalist Melanie Choukas-Bradley to the show tonight. Looks like a very interesting conversation ahead. Absolutely. Her credentials are extraordinary. She works with amazing organizations, Smithsonian Associates, and so much more. We'll tell you about that in just a minute. Greetings from Willie, who's watching in the Netherlands. Thank you very much. Good to have you with us, Willie and Merlin in Ontario, Canada. Good evening, Jim and all lovedies. It's nice to have you here. We have an international audience on the Jim Masters Show Live. And hi, Jim and fellow lovedies from Bernadette. Good to have you with us as well, Bernadette. Thanks for joining us. Karen Campbell Green. I was almost going to say Campbell Soup. I had some earlier. Karen Campbell Green. And you've got a great last name for our topic tonight, green. And my favorite color too, Karen. And Nova Scotia, beautiful Nova Scotia. Good evening, Jim Masters and all of my wonderful lovedy family. It's good to see you, Karen, and welcome to the show once again, all of our regular viewers and lovedies. Hi, Jim and all the lovedies from Louisiana. Nice to have you there. We're still using those spices and that chicory coffee that you sent, Mona. I can't believe how delicious that is. Thank you. That was such a great gift. And Wozniak, hello, Jim and everyone and all the lovedies. Have an amazing day. Great. We are having an amazing day as well. Very busy day because we're planning out all the shows coming up. And Juanita in South Africa is here. Hello, Jim, and all the lovely friends. Good to see you as well, Juanita. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live. Again, those of you watching for the very first time, we welcome you. Christopher Joseph checking in from Ohio. We love that as well. Fantastic. Kathleen is here from New York City. Hiya, Jim. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all well. Hope you guys are doing well. I know it's tough out there right now. The news isn't always the best. And I work in this industry, so I know that firsthand. But hopefully, you are inspired by our show. You're entertained. You're informed. You leave enriched with good vibes, good feelings, but also some knowledge about life and some other perspectives along the way while you're entertained on our show, our talk show. That's what I love doing for all of you. And thanks again for being with us and all your love and support of the show. Kathleen in New York City and Dante CD watching in San Diego, beautiful San Diego, California. Hello there, all lovedies. It's so wonderful to be at Lovedy Hall. Welcome all. And Dante is the one who created the name Lovedy Hall. I came up with Lovedy. You guys call yourselves the Lovedy viewers, but Dante, one of our viewers in San Diego, calls this Lovedy Hall, and that's where the Lovedy Hall came from. So kudos to our viewer and our Lovedy viewer, Dante, for creating that name. I love that. That's fan participation. And he also says, hello, Mr. Lovedy. Hello to you in San Diego as well. Nice to have you guys here. All this love and support. I love how you all say, hello to each other. You greet each other. I love it. Yes, lovedy, lovedy, lovedy. You got it, Karen in Nova Scotia. Jim Masters is rocking out tonight. Thank you very much. And everybody's saying hello. Sherry is here. Hello, lovedies from Sherry as well. Good to see everybody, all of our regulars and some new face as well. Karen says, love your striped shirt tonight. Your hair looks great, handsome. Thank you very much. Don't forget to put your glasses on. It's nice to have all of you here. And again, we welcome everybody. And we toast all of you like we do. Now, I have this mug that came with these wonderful gifts that Mary Bishop sent from Florida, beautiful Pine Island, Florida, actually. So there's our mug tonight from Pine Island, Florida. And the only thing in it is just some water. That's it. A little flavored water. That's all that we have in here. So I'll keep this mug with me so I can keep the vocal cords nice and lubricated. We've got an amazing guest. We've got an extraordinary topic, and I'm so excited to have our guest on the show. She's amazing, and she's very, very passionate about what she does. And let me tell you a little bit about, she has a wonderful blog, so topical, that we're going to talk about in just a second. Melanie Choukas-Bradley of course, she's a Washington, D.C. author, award-winning, noted, and revered. Also a naturalist who leads field trips, tree tours, and forest bathing walks. Now, those of you on Instagram, if you look at the hashtag for forest bathing, you won't believe there's like 55 million posts on Instagram on forest bathing. So if you're saying, well, what is a forest bathing walk? Guess what? You're going to learn tonight with the expert. She does all of this for the Audubon Naturalist Society, the United States Botanic Garden, Smithsonian Associates, the Rock Creek Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy, Politics and Prose, the Aspen Center for Environmental Studies, and other organizations. And Melanie's newest book is Finding Solace at Theodore Roosevelt Island, which is really incredible. That came out in September. She's also author of Resilience, Connecting with Nature in a Time of Crisis. She's very big about connecting with nature, especially during times when you feel like the world is spinning out of control. That book came out perfectly May 2020. Also, The Joy of Forest Bathing, reconnecting with wild places and rejuvenate your life as well, and brilliant illustrations in there as well. She's also the author of A Year in Rock Creek Park, the wild wooded heart of Washington, D.C., and the book was awarded a 2015 Independent Publishers Ippy Silver Medal for Mid-Atlantic nonfiction. She's also the author of 3 other critically acclaimed books, City of Trees, The Complete Field Guide to the Trees of Washington, D.C., as well. An illustrated guide to eastern woodland wildflowers and trees, 350 plants observed at Sugarloaf Mountain, Maryland, and also Sugarloaf, the mountain's history, geology, and natural lore. Obviously, you could tell she has a real passion for nature and for beauty. She's also a longtime contributor to the Washington Post, as well as appeared as an author and guest expert on NPR's All Things Considered, Morning Edition, the Diane Rem Show, WAMU's The Kojo Show, and Senator Bill Bradley's American Voices on Sirius XM Radio. Also, she was awarded one of the 4 inaugural Canopy Awards by Casey Trees for efforts to educate people about the trees in Washington, D.C. She's a certified nature and forest therapy guide and is on the advisory board of the Capital Nature and the advisory committee of the Montgomery Countryside Alliance. She's also done things with Martha Stewart. I mean, it really goes on and on and on. It's an extraordinary background, and she's so passionate about what she does. And she's live and direct from her home in Washington, D.C. Let's welcome Melanie to the show. Melanie, welcome, and I toast you as well. How are you?
I am just great, Jim. I am so happy to be here with all the lovities from around the world.
Cheers.
Cheers. I have my blueberry mug.
Very nice. Very nice.
And when you were sharing the messages, can I just respond to a couple of them?
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely.
So first of all, Juanita was my mother's name. And Bernadette is one of my very favorite songs by the Four Tops. And also, Willie called in from the Netherlands.
Yes.
And this book, where is it? This book here, The Joy of Forest Bathing, was illustrated by an artist who's Dutch, who lives in the Netherlands. I've never met her because she lives in the Netherlands. So I just wanted to respond to those messages and say that, you know, we need lovities in the world. This is clearly what we need.
Absolutely. We sure do. And that's what we're doing here on the show. And I'm so honored to have you with us. I love what you do. And Renee Katz, here comes more levity. Renee Katz is a wonderful cabaret performer in New York. She welcomes you as well. She is here. And I love all the comments that are coming in here. Kathy Short from Cleveland. Welcome, Melanie. It's nice to have you here tonight. And they're going to be calling you a lovity in just a second. I know it. They always do. Good evening, Jim and lovities. Hope everyone is well from Renee Katz. And Christopher Joseph says, welcome, Melanie. He's in Ohio. Karen Campbell Green says, my oldest daughter is a historian and environmentalist. She is a professor at UNI in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Oh, that's fantastic. That's great work. That's great work, Karen.
Wow.
Yeah. Dante CD in San Diego. Welcome, Melanie. You're now a lovity. See, that didn't take long. It's so great to have you at Lovity Hall. That's fantastic. And I love that. And Juanita from South Africa says, welcome to the show, Melanie. I got my degree in nature conservation many moons ago. But life took me on a different path. It's, however, very close to my heart. So looking forward to the show. That's very beautiful, Juanita. I mean, talk about nature, being in South Africa of all places, surrounded by incredible nature. Bernadette, welcome Melanie to Lovity Hall. I hope you can handle all this lovity coming your way. You might need to take a seat. Welcome,
I'm
Melanie.
storing it all up. I'm storing it up.
Soak it up. Soak it up. Absolutely. Welcome, Melanie from Ann Wozniak. And also Kathleen in New York City says, welcome, Melanie. Merlin in Ontario, Canada. Welcome, Melanie, to Lovity Hall. You are now a Lovity. Love that. Love that. Love that. Tell us about your pinky ring gem. This ring, gang, this is a family heirloom that is from the 1930s. My father's uncle, Edward, worked on Wall Street, believe it or not, in the 1930s and 40s. It got passed down from my father's uncle to my father, and then my father gave it to me. So this is a master's family ring that goes back to the 1930s in New York City. That's the story of the pinky ring. I love history too. I love historical, even when it comes to family heirlooms, I'm very big about that. I'd rather have a family heirloom than even something I go out and purchase myself. Mary Bishop in beautiful Pine Island, Florida, which is over towards Captiva. Welcome, Melanie. Happy to have you here. So I tell you, lots of love coming your way. Jennifer, who loves to be Zen, she always asks the guests, no matter what they do, are you a mountain person or an ocean person? Now, I tend to be, as you and I were talking about before we went live on the air, I love the ocean because I grew up originally in New York on Long Island, which is surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean on the south, Long Island Sound on the north, and then being on the southern New England coast, we have the water as well. You are from Vermont, yet you're in DC. Are you more mountain prone or ocean prone, or is it 50-50 for you? She's in Allentown, Pennsylvania, where it's definitely mountain territory.
Yes. Oh, I don't like to pick. It's like picking your favorite child. I love the ocean. I guess if I had to pick, I would pick mountain. I love the mountains. I just love the mountains. You can see I have a painting of a mountain right behind me. That's a little mountain. It's actually near. People are amazed to find out that we have a little mountain right near Washington, D.C. And I wrote a book about it. I'm confused about the direction here when I turn around. Sugarloaf, the mountain's history, geology, and natural lore. I lived next to that little mountain for 20 years and wrote 2 books about it. I love nature. So, I just love being in nature, whether it's mountains, ocean, hills, prairies, badlands. I love the badlands of the Dakotas, the desert. I love the desert. When it comes to natural beauty, in my opinion, you can't lose, you can't miss.
And the United States is very beautiful. You can go up and down the East Coast from Maine to Florida and get all these different looks and all these different, even all the different accents and foods and everything else. And then you can go across and it's extraordinary. And then the West Coast. So many people don't get a chance. And it's one of the great things to do in our vast country. And of course, all the other countries are beautiful too. Everything is distinct. But in the United States, not everybody gets a chance to go out and explore. I still have yet to get to a place I've always wanted to get to. And even the Brady Bunch got to go there before me, the Grand Canyon.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing like it.
You've been. Yeah.
And I also want to say, though, that it's wonderful to travel and to go to these incredible landscapes that we have throughout North America. But now it's hard for us to travel. And with our horizons limited, it's a great opportunity to really connect with the beauty and wonder right in your own backyard. Mm-hmm. So, and if you live in the city, most of our cities have beautiful parkland and gardens and, and even if you can't go outside your house, there are ways of connecting with nature. So I'd love to talk about that too.
Karen in Nova Scotia says, Melanie, your fireplace is gorgeous.
Thank you.
And she says, Maine is very similar to Nova Scotia. That's right. Loves the ocean, but lives near the mountains. Mona in Louisiana, welcome Melanie to the Lovely Hole Show. Allison Tillman is welcoming you as well. And Christine Ramin Clifton in North Carolina says, welcome Melanie to the Jim Master Show Live. I look forward to hearing more of your career. I love taking photographs of nature, being a member of our local photography club. You are a lovely now.
Thank you. And I just have to say, I was born in North Carolina, even though I grew up in Vermont. And my mother, Juanita, was from Maine, the coast of Maine, way down east.
So you have a wonderful array of background. Merlin in Ontario, Canada said she used to live in the Bruce Peninsula National Park in Tobermory, Ontario, Canada, which is land and water park, and Fathom 5, the best for diving. Really, really fantastic. I asked you before we went live on the air, and I'd love for you to share it with our viewers around the world, Melanie. How did you first get interested in nature and writing about it and really making it such a big part of your life? What were those early inspirations in your life growing up in Vermont that sort of turned you on to really not just going and enjoying it, but really cherishing it and sharing it and writing about it in the way that you do so beautifully?
Thank you, Jim. So I grew up in Vermont, and I grew up with a lot of freedom as a child. So I spent a lot of time wandering in the woods. I mean, I think even from the age of 5, I was wandering in the woods alone, wandering in the fields, climbing trees. I read all of my Nancy Drew books up in a tree. So I was just immersed in natural beauty from the beginning, and it had a very deep effect on me. I went to the University of Vermont in Burlington, and that's where I met my husband, Jim. We have been married for 45 years. And we spent our early years of our marriage in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And then we moved to Washington, D.C. when he started law school. And I had been the news director for a radio station in New Hampshire. And I thought, oh, Washington will be a great place. I'll just, breeze into town and get a fabulous job. Well, that didn't happen right away as I had hoped. What happened instead is that I fell in love with the trees of Washington. And I found out that the city had been known as the City of Trees for 100 years, and that we have here this incredible collection of trees. They're from all over the world. Many of them are historic. We have a tradition of tree loving in this country related to the city. George Washington was a serious tree lover. And you can actually see trees at his home, Mount Vernon, nearby in Virginia, that he planted himself that are still growing today. Thomas Jefferson was also a tree lover, and he was responsible for designing and executing the first street tree planting on record in Washington. So my husband and I were in our early days here in Washington. We were living right near the Library of Congress, and back in those days, you could just go into the main reading room and request any book. So I did all this research about the trees, and then I went out and I got to know just about every tree in the city. I really wanted to know them all for my first book, City of Trees. And then everything in my career just kind of flowed from there. So I have written, these are my nature books behind me here on the mantle. I've written 7 nature books. I do all kinds of really fun tree tours, and we do them on foot, we do them by bicycle, we do them by kayak. And then recently I've started leading forest bathing walks as well, and I'm happy to talk about that if your listeners know what forest bathing is.
Yeah, tell us what forest bathing is and what a forest bathing walk is. Is it bathing yourself in being surrounded by the forest? What is it about?
Yes, that's what you got it. You've got it. It's really full immersion in the beauty and wonder of nature. So it's something, forest bathing is translated from the Japanese shindi-nyoku, which, is a pretty literal translation. And it's a phrase that was coined in the 1980s by the Forestry Agency in Japan. They wanted to encourage people, especially people living in Tokyo, which is a very intense urban environment. They wanted to encourage them to go out into the beautiful forests in Japan and relax and enjoy the beauty. People in Tokyo work really long hours. And, as I said, it's a very intense urban environment. So people started doing this thing called forest bathing. And it's really just going out, sitting under the trees, dipping your feet in the water, smelling the flowers, listening to the birds, listening to the flowing water, just allowing yourself to absorb all of the calming beauty of nature. And it became really popular in Japan. And health researchers started studying the health benefits of forest bathing. And they found out that there were very significant physical and mental health benefits from spending time in nature, quiet time in nature. It's a very quiet practice. And, it lowers your blood pressure. It lowers your cortisol levels. Cortisol is a hormone that in high levels can indicate that you're under stress. It gives you immunity from disease.
Yes.
They're very exciting studies about that. And then, as anyone who's spent time in nature knows, you feel better when you're in nature. You feel calmer, you feel happier. You let those negative thoughts go. And there have been studies done about that, about ruminative thinking, which can be it can lead to anxiety and depression when you just keep turning a thought over in your mind and you're not getting anywhere with it. You go out in nature, you can let go of ruminative thinking. And then the practice just became popular all over the world. It was one of those things. It was kind of like, how meditation and yoga and Tai Chi came out of Asia and have been adopted by cultures all around the world. This has happened too with forest bathing. So now we have all of these trained forest bathing guides in North America. I am a trained guide. I've also been to Japan on a forest bathing trip, and I've gone on walks with Japanese forest bathing guides throughout the country. And to give you an idea of how quickly this grew in popularity, I was the first forest bathing trained guide in Washington, D.C. in 2016. We now have almost 50 guides here that are trained. Wow. Some of them are medical doctors, they're therapists. They really come from all different professions and orientations. And it's something that has just really resonated with people. And now, that we're dealing with COVID and then all of the political, social unrest and, what happened last week here in my city, we really need this nature connection more than ever. Especially lovities need it.
Absolutely right. You got that. You got that right. I love the fact also that your message and what you do has been spread amongst so many forms of media. Of course, several shows on NPR, the Washington Post, even marthastewart.com. Tell us about some of the wonderful opportunities you've had, the Jim Masters Show Live, some wonderful opportunities to actually write and be published in a lot of these different media outlets and forms of media. That's really fantastic.
Thank you. Well, I have two books that are, I have my book, The Joy of Forest Bathing, is specifically about forest bathing. And then the book that came out in last May, Resilience, Connecting with Nature in a Time of Crisis, that is about all kinds of nature connection, and forest bathing is a big part of it. I haven't done that much writing for periodicals about forest bathing myself, but I have been written about. I've had a number of reporters who, like from NPR and National Parks Magazine and other publications, who have come on my walks, and they've been really wonderful about being very inobtrusive on the walks and actually taking part in the forest bathing walks, and they really get it. I mean, the thing about forest bathing is it sounds a little exotic when you first hear about it, or a little odd maybe, but people take to it so naturally.
Yeah.
Because, our whole evolution happened with in a close connection with nature, close proximity to nature. All of our foods, our medicines, all of our connections are with the natural world. And we're less connected now because most of us live in urban areas, or, many of us do, and we spend a lot of screen time. But it still feels very natural to us to spend time in nature. It feels right. And so people, I lead, Washington is a pretty conservative place. I don't mean politically, but just it's a little buttoned down compared to some other places in the world. And, at first I was kind of skeptical. I thought, are people going to think this is like very new agey or weird? And they don't. I don't think anybody has ever expressed discomfort or, felt like they just didn't take to it naturally. So it's pretty cool. It just kind of came along at the right time, I think.
It's perfect. And you're a naturalist writer. Let's talk about what that actually is, the areas that you actually cover and delve into. It sounds really fascinating, Melanie.
Yeah, well, I've been a naturalist for a long time, and a naturalist is just somebody who studies nature. So you can specialize in birds or snakes, you can be a herpetologist or geologist. I mean, they're all different specialties as a naturalist. I've always gravitated to plants. So I have written books about trees and wildflowers, and a lot of my walks are teaching people about plants, about trees and wildflowers and, all the plants we find on our walks. And, and I lead these walks at the U.S. Capitol in Rock Creek Park. I go out to, other places in the country and lead naturalist walks. But, what we do on a forest bathing walk is a little different. We don't do as much plant ID. We're not as focused on what is this tree called and, what are all of its features. We do some of that. But it's more of a meditative practice where we're just really enjoying our surroundings fully in a very relaxed way. So it's a little different from being a naturalist, being a forest bathing guide.
And you're a teacher as well. Tell us about your background as a teacher and teaching all of this.
Yes, so I have taught plant identification for many years, and I don't teach formal classes anymore, but all of my naturalist walks and even my forest bathing walks involve a lot of teaching about our surroundings. And I'm also really interested in history. So I like to impart, the historical aspects of whatever place we're in. I'm very place oriented. I really like to help people connect with places, special places, whether they're out in the, in the wild or in the city. And connect, with what grows there and what the history of the place is and how it's evolved. So I'm interested in all aspects of place.
So what are some of your favorite places that you have visited that are, Melanie's like top 5 or top 10 lists? And does that keep changing based on where you go?
Yes. Well, I'm a big believer in connecting with nature close to home.
Yeah.
So I think my favorite places are the places where I have lived. So Vermont, the White Mountains,
beautiful.
Sugarloaf Mountain, the little mountain out in Maryland near Washington, D.C., and Rock Creek Park, which is this amazing park right in the middle of Washington, D.C. It's twice the size of Central Park in New York, and it's a lot wilder. It's really a wild park. It was the first urban national park in the country. And that's where I go, I go there, and then I go to Theodore Roosevelt Island, and that's the subject of my most recent book. And that is an island totally within Washington, D.C. It's in the Potomac River. It's a memorial to Theodore Roosevelt, who was our foremost conservation and naturalist president. And it's wild. We have all kinds of bird life there, and it's right in the middle of the city. It's a mile and a half from the White House. So those are some of my favorite places. And then a little farther afield, I've just fallen in love with the Badlands of the Dakotas, especially Theodore Roosevelt National Park in western North Dakota, which I think is one of the best kept secrets in North America. And I love the Rocky Mountains. I love California. I love the Pacific Northwest. I can't say there's any natural place I've been that I haven't loved.
And Jennifer in Allentown, Pennsylvania, in the mountains, there's this nature is Zen, comforting the mind, body, good healing. Way up, Jen is Zen with it. And I like what Christine says. Interesting observation. So true. We have a better connection with nature than we do with our Wi-Fi. That's true. Wi-Fi is unpredictable, but nature is pretty much predictable.
That's great.
And it's interesting. We're talking about nature. I'll throw this out there. I've said this on the air, and it's just a haphazard observation, but I've said it with guests that have been on this show that I think, and there's no obviously facts on it, but it's just a feeling, maybe a lovety feeling, that maybe what happened in the springtime with COVID and all of that is that three major energies, forces came together, and they are the divine, Mother Nature, and planet Earth. And they said, we're not fond with how you humans are treating the planet and how you're treating each other. So it's the new decade. It's 2020, which sounds fabulous. 2020. It's very Star Trek-y, 2020. However, that's going to be the year that we throw a few things at all of you at the same time. So we're going to throw in something that's global, like a pandemic, health. Then we're going to have the economy, react to that. And then, of course, the social unrest, civil unrest, and then political things as well. And other, natural occurrences, big storms, hurricanes, and fires, and floods, and whatever else, blizzards. And we're going to throw it all at you at the same time. Any one of those things could have been something monumental to deal with independently, but we're going to jam it all into this period of time because we want to see how, as humans, you're all going to react to it. Are you going to come together and unify and celebrate, life and the blessings of life and the joys and the simple things in life, nature, and celebrate and preserve all of that and preserve relationships and empathy and compassion and really listen to one another and come together? Or are you going to divide and make it even worse, which is why the divine nature and Mother Nature and planet Earth came and said, halt, stop, knock it off. And so we've had this extraordinary opportunity to bake bread, which everybody's been doing, do those hobbies they've always wanted to do, repurpose their soulful journey and get in touch with who they're seeing in the mirror, maybe re-enhance, or some have even changed relationships, get in touch with nature. Gardening was, I think, the most popular thing that people did last summer, which I'm a big believer in because I'm a green thumb. So they were just, it's something you can control, something that you can do, that you can fertilize, and nature, you can naturally help, a plant grow. You can fertilize it and you can water it. And then because you've taken care of it and you've nurtured it, it pays you back with, flowers or fruits or vegetables. So it's like this one hand helping the other sort of way of thinking. And I just think that these energies came together and said enough, and threw all of this at us at once to see what we would do with it. We've seen the worst of the worst, but we've also seen the best of the best. And we've seen some beautiful things come out of it. We've gotten re in touch with the things that you've always been in touch with, that you've known the majority of your life have always been there. And I've said on this show multiple times to the audience, and even to family and friends and colleagues, with everything that's going on, all the horrific things we see on the news and just loss and this and that and horror, get in touch with the constants in life. That will keep you sort of stable and not feeling like the entire world is out of control. Go to the ocean, get out in nature, listen to music, create something, do the things that are not necessarily controllable, but things that are there. The ocean is always there, and that tide in and out, in and out, the rhythm of life, the rhythm of the planet, the birds, the squirrels, as basic as that is. How many times did we really, during our busy lives of clearing out the inbox and being number one and being first and rushing and forward, 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 how many times did we really stop and pause to watch the squirrels, to do the things that allow us to breathe and savor our accomplishments, savor the experiences that we just had? Now I think people are understanding that there has to be a yin and yang to life. You have to, if you're going to go do this, well, why don't we share in the experience, and why don't we savor? You know, if you just accomplished something major, as opposed to pushing off to do the next thing, why don't we pause and relish in the thing we just experienced and the thing we just accomplished? And I've always been somebody, and I think you're like that too, who needs that, craves that. So if you just if you went on an amazing, forest bathing experience, you want to have the next day to like savor what you just experienced, go through the photos, talk about it, and then move on to the next thing. We've always been so like, ba, 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 ba. And then now the world came to a stop. So we have a beautiful pivot point to be able to hear messages from folks like yourself and others, hopefully what we're doing here on the show with inspiration and levity and all, to take it to another level that maybe enriches people's lives and gives the rest of their lives a more beautiful, deeper, soulful, connected feeling and purpose and vibe. That's what I'm hoping. And I know that's a long-winded explanation, but I do think those energies came together like a divine Mother Nature and planet Earth, and they said, enough. This isn't working. There's too much, negativity and divisiveness and all this hatred, and the planet is not well, and all these things that are happening. We're gonna throw a few things out your way to see if you can, maybe move in a different direction. How do you feel about all that?
I really agree with you. And, I wrote this book, Resilience, Connecting with Nature in a Time of Crisis, right at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were first getting our stay-at-home orders and recommendations. And I interviewed friends of mine all over North America. And what many of them said was that they were grateful for the opportunity to slow down and to work in their gardens, and like you said, to bake bread, and to see the sky, when we didn't have as much air travel and as much pollution from automobiles, the air was suddenly so much cleaner and quieter and clearer. And I would go out, we don't see that many stars in the city, but when the air cleared, I was seeing stars that I hadn't seen. And could I read a passage from the foreword to this book, which I think really speaks to what you were saying, Jim?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we have also, which book is the one you have? The one on resilience?
Yeah, the resilience book. Yes.
This one here, right? Connecting with nature. So you wrote this at a time when, was it as a result, you think, of what was going on, or you already had an idea to do this and the timing just?
Yeah, no, what happened was my publisher, as soon as the pandemic hit and we realized how serious it was, he asked 10 of his authors to write books about resilience. How could we be resilient during the pandemic? And each author wrote about a different aspect of resilience. So I wrote about connecting with nature to be resilient. And my friend Wendy Paulson, who's a nature educator, an amazing woman, wrote the foreword to the book. And this is what she wrote in her foreword. And I think it just so echoes what you were saying, Jim. My hope is that when we emerge from this troubling time, people around the globe will find themselves more keenly aware of how blessed we are by the gifts of the natural world. Prairies, wetlands, forests, mountains, deserts, oceans, and all their remarkable inhabitants, as well as by wild pockets in cities and towns. Even more, I hope that the recognition of nature's value leads us to contemplate our individual and collective roles in caring for our planet as it has for us. On the 50th anniversary year of Earth Day, and Earth Day happened in April, right after the start of the pandemic, in a time that feels unsettlingly bleak, committing ourselves to more active Earth stewardship seems a logical and fitting and entirely necessary outcome. So I think that's the other part of it, that, slowing down and, having, like you said, having this convergence of all these things hitting us at once, it was really a moment of spiritual awakening and reckoning for us, and an opportunity to really look at our lives in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it brought us together at first. I mean, the things that pulled us apart, I mean, we could talk about that. I know we don't want to get into that tonight, but I think it had the opportunity to really bring us together, and it brought a lot of us together. It really did.
Absolutely. Well, you wrote a blog recently. We're going to show some of your other amazing books as well. You wrote a phenomenal blog that was just posted on January 11th, 2021. Capitol Hill's Witness to History. And in non-COVID times, you led several Capitol Tree tours of the phenomenal trees that surround the U.S., the extraordinary, brilliant work of art. I studied architecture and design before I went into television, broadcasting, media, and everything. So I love landscape. I love design. I love architecture. One of the most beautiful buildings, on earth is our Capitol, of course. But you led several Capitol Tree tours a year for the U.S. Botanical Garden under the auspices of the architect of the Capitol. Tell us about that experience, and also tell us about this phenomenal blog that you just penned only days ago.
Thank you so much, Jim. Yeah, for several years, I have been leading tours several times a year for the U.S. Botanic Garden, and as you said, under the auspices of the architect of the Capitol. And we do these tours in all different seasons so that people can appreciate the trees in all the seasons. And I love to witness things through the seasons, to really, that's how you really get to know nature, when you see it in all its moods. So, I lead tours there in the winter and fall and spring and summer. The Capitol grounds were designed, a lot of people don't know this, but they were designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, who also designed Central Park in New York. And he had traveled as a reporter for the precursor of the New York Times in the pre-bellum South, and had reported on slavery. And he had witnessed a lot of, really rough things. And so when he was designing his parks, he wanted to make sure they were welcoming to everybody. And I think you get that feeling in Central Park, and you do get it at the Capitol grounds too, where you have open spaces for gatherings. You have very natural groves of trees, winding walkways that are very welcoming. And so the grounds have just, he did this work in the 1870s and 80s, and the grounds have amazing trees. They are landscaped by him. You can really see his signature landscaping. And then there are all of these amazing trees. Some of the ones that I wrote about, and a lot of them have historical significance, that I wrote about in the blog post were the Anne Frank tree, which is, it's progeny of a tree that grew outside the annex in Amsterdam, where Anne Frank's family was hiding from the Nazis during World War II. And she wrote this incredible diary, the Diary of Anne Frank. She died in a concentration camp at the age of 15. But this tree that was outside her window that she wrote about in her diary, that gave her hope, that connected her with nature and gave her hope, it lived into the 21st century. And then when it came down in a windstorm, they propagated seeds from the tree, and one of them was planted on the Capitol grounds. And there's a plaque there. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it's a quote of hers which says, "No one need wait. Start right now to improve the world."
Mm-hmm.
There's also a tree that it's a sycamore tree and that Anne Frank tree is a horse chestnut tree. There's a sycamore tree that was planted to honor Emmett Till, who was a 14-year-old African-American boy who was brutally murdered in 1955 in Mississippi. And his murderers were acquitted. And that galvanized really helped to galvanize the early days of the civil rights movement. So, there are all these trees at the Capitol that really have historic significance. And I thought of them, when I saw those people storming the Capitol, it was just such an ugly, hateful violation. And I was horrified, as we all were. But also, I was thinking about those trees that I have known for over 40 years and how it was a violation for them, too. And so that's what inspired me to write this blog post, which I hope your viewers will check out. It's on my website. And now, now the grounds are totally fortified. They built a big fence around them. Before last week, you could just stroll under the trees. You could walk anywhere on the grounds, just as Olmsted had intended. You could, they didn't want you to climb the trees, although I do confess I have done that in the moonlight once.
What kind of tree was it?
Yeah. You're not supposed to climb them, but you can touch them, you can hug them, you can, just really get close to them in normal times. Now everything is fenced off, and I don't know how long that will be, but.
What kind of tree was it that you climbed?
It was a deodar cedar from the Himalayan mountains. It was just too irresistible. I mean, it just had the perfect horizontal branches going right up. I didn't climb too high up. I'm glad I didn't get caught. And I didn't talk about it.
Breathtaking views, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Well, you were doing research. You were making sure the tree was not. You were making sure the tree was not diseased, or there were pests that were needed to,
It was science. It was all in the interest of science.
It was all in the interest of science.
But, we have an amazing climate here in Washington. So we can support trees that usually grow further north or further south. So, we have sugar maples, which is the state tree of Vermont. On the Capitol grounds, we have bald cypress trees, which that's the state tree of Louisiana. It can grow here. So we have this really kind of ideal climate for a lot of different types of trees, and they're all around the Capitol grounds. So wherever you're from, when you go there, and I hope you will be able to go there freely in the very near future, you can probably find your favorite tree planted on the Capitol grounds that you know from home.
I bet you're like me. When there's a storm, like a hurricane or tornado, an ice storm, you hate to see, I say it constantly, my family, friends, and colleagues will tell you, I constantly immediately say, I feel so bad that the trees come down, that a tree that's 100 years old that withstood so much is all of a sudden gone. That's it. I'm always thinking about the trees and the shrubs and all of that. Yeah, the brush and.
Yeah, and if I could quote Thomas Jefferson, who I mentioned, he was a real tree lover, our third president. He said, "The unnecessary felling of a tree, perhaps the growth of centuries, strikes me as a crime little short of murder. It pains me to an unspeakable degree."
Yeah. That is so beautiful. I like that.
And I do, whenever we have a big storm here, I call all the tree people, I call Mount Vernon, I call the Lincoln Cottage, I call the Capitol, I call everybody who takes care of the trees here, I call them up to find out if the trees are okay. And like you said, I mean, I feel the way you do. I just feel heartbroken when they come down, especially the really old ones that have been with us for centuries and have witnessed so much.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Rini Katz, who's in New York City, says, crave more nature living in the city. And Jennifer Barry in Allentown says, I've always climbed pine trees. Jen is Zen. Karen Campbell Green says, we have sugar maples in Nova Scotia too. Lots of homemade maple syrup. Yeah. And really good. And actually, I was mentioning too, on my mother's side of the family, we realized and discovered we have like 150 to 200 more relatives on my mother's side. And my mother's the youngest of 16 to begin with. And they're all up. The other relatives we discovered are up in New Brunswick, Canada area, and they founded or discovered or settled, actually is the right word, settled a mountain and a town called Kierstead Falls and Kierstead Mountain in New Brunswick, Canada. And from what we've seen of the beauty of it from photos and things of that nature, gorgeous. A lot of the Christmas trees actually come from that area. Absolutely stunning. Yeah, there's something about a tree. I have a question that might seem out of left field, but I know you can handle it, and I know what your answer is going to be already. Do you humanize the trees? You give them human qualities you get because you feel so like they're almost your babies, or that you look at each tree and you give them certain human qualities, even though they're not, just in the way that you feel about them and feel so close to them?
You know, I don't think I really give them human qualities, but I feel such an affinity for them. You know, I feel a closeness with trees. Sometimes I feel it really, really strongly. And there are some trees that I've really gotten to know. There's a tree in Rock Creek Park that I call Nana. It's a tulip tree. And I like to sit at the base of this tree in what I call Nana's lap, because you can sit on the ground and there's like a little crook in the trunk that just fits your back. So you can snuggle in there. And my son Jesse discovered that if you sing or chant, you can kind of feel the vibrations coming up from the tree. And I love this tree. And like whenever I'm feeling blue or troubled, I go to Nana. And, you know, I feel like Nana gives me a big hug. So I guess I do, you know, kind of give her a human, you know, I relate to her as I related to my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another tree that I actually call grandmother sycamore on Theodore Roosevelt Island. And yesterday I went and I sat, you were talking about the tides, and I love to be in touch with the ebb and flow of the tides. And believe it or not, we have tides in Washington, D.C. Our rivers are tidal. It's fresh water, but the tides ebb and flow quite dramatically. And the tide was going out, and Nana, I'm sorry, not Nana, Nana's in Rock Creek Park. Grandmother sycamore on the shore of Theodore Roosevelt Island has this amazing network of roots. They're just phenomenal. These horizontal roots that are exposed, they're wrapped around the rocks right next to the river. And as the tide was ebbing, I could sit on those roots. And I did that yesterday, and it was so comforting to me just to be that close to the tree and connect with the roots. And then, for good measure, after I left Grandmother Sycamore, I went to Rock Creek Park so that I could sit in Nana's lap. Mm. So it was a day, you know, after what we've been through, I needed both Nana and grandmother, both my grandmothers.
That's beautiful. That really is really, really beautiful. And, you know, it's extraordinary work that you do. And I think it's fascinating, too, that you've had an opportunity to do it with well-respected organizations as well, Melanie, the Audubon Naturalist Society, United States Botanic Gardens, Smithsonian Associates, Rock Creek Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy, Politics and Prose. Tell us about what it's like to do that along with and on behalf of such well-respected entities and organizations that are beloved.
Yeah, well, it's really a privilege to work with these organizations because they're all so wonderful. And the people that are drawn to them are people who are really interested in learning about nature and history and having, really meaningful experiences in nature. So I don't lead walks and other events on my own. I do them only through these organizations. And then, another nice thing about it is that as a writer, writing is a solitary thing. And I love to be alone. I do really cherish solitude. But I'm also, I love people. And so this gives me an opportunity to work with wonderful people. And I've been doing this for a few years now. So I've made a lot of friends that I work with. And it's just really, really nice to work with them. And also to see people on walks. I've gotten to know people over the years who come back and I see them on many walks and I really get to know them. And, another thing that we haven't talked about is when you're in nature, when you experience natural beauty with other people, it's a real bonding experience. So, connecting with the other people who are enjoying nature with you is just as important and meaningful as the nature connection.
It absolutely is. It's something very, very unifying and very beautiful because you're experiencing what I love about it. What I love about the ocean as well, that why the ocean speaks to me, is it's larger than me. It's something that reminds me that it's a constant in life and it's larger than me. So I pay such incredible respect to it. I use it. I swim it, surf it, windsurf and boogie board and float in it and just love it. And walk along it and sit near it, and it calls me. It's a Zen situation. But I also we have a mutual, it sounds strange, but there's a mutual respect. Like it knows that I find great beauty and value in it and respect it and great blessing and blood pressure lowering from it and all of those things. At the same time, I understand that it's in control, not me. The minute I step in it, anything can happen. There's this wonderful relationship that I have where we sort of trust each other. If that makes any sense. Like I know the power of that ocean and I see the swirling wave, but there's a trust, as if like I was saying, I know you're in control, but you're going to allow me to have this time. As long as I respect you, the ocean, you will respect me. And we've got this mutual thing. Same thing with nature. If you respect nature, whether it's trees, flowers, plants, animals, whatever it is, if you respect it, it will respect you back.
Yes, everything you just said resonates with me so deeply. First of all, it is a relationship that you have with nature. It's very much like a relationship with a person. And that's why I think it's really important. I know you live near the ocean and you can visit it frequently. I think that having a place, and I call it a wild home. It sounds like your wild home is the beach there on the Connecticut shore. My wild home is Rock Creek Park and Theodore Roosevelt Island. And you get to know your wild home very much like you get to know a person. When you first meet somebody, you learn their name, you see what they look like, you may get an impression that is a very warm person, she has a sense of humor, you'll pick up certain things. But it's not until you really get to know somebody through the years that you form this relationship and you have this sense of familiarity. And you talked about the respect, and I think another part of that is feeling a sense of belonging. I think we carry a lot of guilt and worry about our relationship with the earth because of the impact that humanity has had on the earth. We have a lot of guilt. We've kind of separated ourselves. And I think there's a lot of pain there. And when you can be in nature and feel like you belong, when you're there on the beach, you belong. You feel that you belong. It's really important to us, to our sense of well-being, that we feel like we belong. And you also said right at the outset about it's bigger than you. And I think that, when I started my resilience book, when the pandemic started, I heard that from a lot of people, that they were very comforted by the fact that even though we people were going through this very painful, scary experience, when they were out and when my friends were out in nature, they felt like, the world is carrying on. The birds are making nests. The clouds are, they're flying by in the sky. The trees are leafing out and blooming. Life is carrying on. And that is very comforting, especially when you're hurting in any way, to, just get that sense that you're part of something bigger, and, that life, the whole pageant of life is going on and you are a part of it.
Exactly right. And it's constant. It was there before me, and it's going to be there after me. And it's just, no matter what time of day you walk through the forest or walk through a garden or you go to the ocean, it's there. And what's really terrific too is appreciating and understanding the changes in color and shading as the sun is rising, how you get a different feeling in the morning when you are in a garden or you are sitting near a lake and the sun is rising, or you're by the river, by the ocean, or in the forest, or even in your backyard, surrounded by the foliage you have in your backyard and the brush and flowers, whatever you may have. And then midday, there's a whole other feeling. And then as the sun is setting, some people gravitate to sunset and sort of the wrapping of the day. It's just the silhouetting that happens with trees. And I love silhouettes, and trees are so wonderful with silhouetting things and scenes.
Especially in
yes, right now I'm a big photographer as well, and I even post on the Facebook page and our YouTube channel, everything else. I do these things called Masters Mantras, which I did for several years on my Facebook page at Jim Masters TV. And then people said, because they're all positive and they're like short observations of life that I did verbally, that I also now do on the YouTube channel with video. And a lot of times it's nature, it's the sun setting, it's the ocean, it's the silhouette of these trees in the winter with snow, and all these things that I see visually as a very visual person, as tend to be a creative type. So I'll be in the car with people, and I'm the one that's telling everybody, wait, we're on a bridge. Look at that. And they're like, uh-huh. And I'm like, wait a minute. Look, we're actually on a bridge that somebody built and created, and we're going over a river, a valley. We're going over a city. We're going over the ocean, whatever it is. Look at that. That's free. That's available. That's breathtaking. Yeah, but we've seen it before. That doesn't matter. Look at it again. And every time you look, no matter what it is, and I say this about music and other things too, when you look twice at anything, you'll see something new. You'll see something different. You'll feel and experience something different. And if you go, and look at the tree, you have a favorite tree that's in your yard, every time you look at it, you'll see something different. A leaf fell off, or the way the sun is shading it, or it's aging, or it's getting taller, or it's leaning, or whatever it is. That tree or whatever the thing is that you're appreciating will change, like everything does in life. And you can appreciate that. You can document it. I mean, so it's really cool. You and I are kindred.
Absolutely. We are kindred spirits in nature. And also you're talking about how nature is always changing, and it's just so rejuvenating. Every moment is new and different. And what's really cool is if you get to know a place, and again, it's like what I call a wild home, you get to know a place intimately, you can look forward to certain changes. You kind of know that, the cherries are going to blossom in the spring. The spring peepers are going to start calling. You expect certain things that are familiar, but there are always new surprises. And when you have that mixture, and again, this is very much like a relationship with a person who you know well, you know them intimately, but they're constantly surprising you with new dimensions. And that mix of the familiar and the new is just woven into the experience of being in nature.
Just reading some of these amazing comments too while you're sharing that. I have about 3,000 photos that I took of my garden from my garden since the first lockdown. Juanita in South Africa. I imagine that must be extraordinary. We're going to have to do a whole show just on nature and gardening as well. We did a whole food show, and it was supposed to be a half hour, and all the lovely viewers came out of the woodwork with recipes and food pictures. It ended up being almost a 3-hour show with food.
Wow.
Christine Clifton says, I appreciate nature so very much. And Judy Wales watching, she said, my dad ran the New Jersey State Parks. And if that wasn't enough, he taught me about trees he raised in his nursery, Holly Hill Farm. Our Christmas trees were always put back in the earth to keep growing. That's great. So they had the Christmas tree and then they put it back in the earth. Yeah. The American holly tree next to our front porch in Allentown, New Jersey, protected us when a car smashed into the front of our farmhouse. So the tree acted as a protective being. That was my oh golly holly, and even though it was hurt badly from the accident, it lived and produced an abundance of more berries the next year than ever. And thank you, Jim, for the show. I love when people, don't you love when people, I'm sure you get a lot of people, because people don't necessarily, unless they're a specialist like you, it isn't something they talk about daily, about their love of trees and things of that nature, but they feel so at ease and so comfortable with the scenario that you create, even when you go on, the forest bathing walks and other things, that they start opening up. It almost becomes childlike for them to share like something she just shared with us, Judy. That must happen to you quite often, and it can be a beautiful experience, right?
It is. Oh, I just love sharing nature experiences. Even my inbox, my email inbox, people share the most wonderful things with me. And when you're, like I had talked before about how when you're out in nature with people, you feel such a connection because you're having a collective experience. You're all witnessing something amazing together. And it really is a bonding thing. Also, about being a child, I, on a forest bathing walk, when I'm leading a forest bathing walk, I will give different invitations, and I'll invite people to to tune in to different senses. So like, we'll spend a few minutes just noticing what's in motion. We'll focus on sound. We'll focus on smells. Smells are very powerful and they can evoke all kinds of memories. And then one of the invitations I'd love to give is to say to people, imagine you're a child. And then I tell them, and you're invisible, so don't be inhibited. And that is so cool. And when I give that invitation, I'm immediately a child. I'm 5 years old and, just relating to nature as a child. And can I just share a really cool kid experience I witnessed yesterday on Theodore Roosevelt Island?
Yes.
It made me so happy. So when I was crossing, there's this really nice footbridge that goes across the Potomac River to get to the island. And as I was crossing the bridge, there was a mother with 2 little girls. And the littlest girl was probably about 2 years old. She had on bright yellow pants, and both the girls had puddle stomper rubber boots. And I kept running into them on the island as I was walking around the island. They really got around. And then I came around. I had been sitting on grandmother sycamore's roots. And after my root experience, I came up to this very muddy place. There's like just a little wooden bridge that people had built over the mud. And the little girl, the littlest girl, was having a mud tantrum. She was yelling, she was having a total meltdown, and she was saying, more mud, more mud, more mud. And her mother was trying to coax her along the trail, and she was saying, you know, there's more mud up ahead, it's okay. And she was, more mud, more mud. She did not want to leave the mud. Then she saw her sister up ahead had found another mud puddle that she was stomping in. And so she went up and joined her, and they were stomping. They were so happy. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is the most therapeutic thing, seeing these little girls stomping in the mud and having this little mud meltdown. More mud, more mud.
Well, at least the mud didn't go flying. that would have been a different.
It was great. And I think we all need to stomp in the mud a little more. You know, we need stuff like that.
Absolutely. Judy says, thank you for sharing this. I breathe deeper when I'm with trees. It's like Dad is still here. That's beautiful, Judy. And Karen in Nova Scotia says, we have an apple tree behind our house, which was planted by my kids' great-grandfather many years ago. So there is that connection with a family, like when somebody has planted a tree and in somebody's honor. Matter of fact, Karen also says that she planted a tree in memory of her mother the year after she passed. That tree means the world to me.
Oh gosh, that is so wonderful. That is just so wonderful. And you know, I think a lot of people too experience, it sounds like you experience, I'm sorry, who was that just sent that message?
That was Karen Campbell Green.
Yeah.
Nova Scotia.
Yeah, Karen, you feel that connection to your mother. And I've also, on forest bathing walks, people have had some kind of mystical experiences where they have felt like loved ones who've passed on have come to them like through the birds or through the trees. And, you know, I think that can be a really powerful thing too. You know, there's so much that we don't understand. And you know, and if you're just open to it, if you open your heart and you're out there and you let it happen, magical things can happen. Magical connections.
Exactly right. You're so true. I want to show some of your incredible works here, the books. You mentioned Sugarloaf. Tell us about this one. What was the inspiration to write this?
Yes, so that's the little mountain that I mentioned before. It's about 30 miles from Washington, D.C., and it's a real mountain. It's not like a big lofty peak,
No.
but it's a really nice mountain, and it's got a rocky summit and all kinds of trails. And my husband, Jim, and I lived near that mountain for 20 years. That's where our children grew up. And the kids just loved that mountain. The minute they were out of the car, they were climbing on the rocks and, you know, just running to the top. And, you know, it wasn't a huge, intimidating hike, you know, which it can be a little frustrating to hike with children on a big, long expedition. But this is a little mountain, and they would just run to the top of it. And there's a lot of history associated with it. So that's the story behind that book.
That is fantastic. And you find that kids do take a real interest in all this too, right? Early on, they love it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You know, and I think if we just followed children around and experienced the world through their eyes, we would be a lot happier and we'd have a lot more fun.
Just thinking about that too, and the times when I was a kid, how I just loved to be out in nature and just really, Linda in St. Augustine, Florida says, being one with nature, being one with God's beauty. That is absolutely beautiful. And Karen says that she definitely feels a strong connection with Mom's tree. And she also said that the apple tree that she planted in honor of her mother still produces apples each year, such a special tree, which has become a home for blue jays, squirrels, and many other little birds. I love watching the birds as I drink my coffee. The tree, as much as it gives off oxygen and beauty and everything else and shading and everything, also helps with the lives of other creatures like the birds, the squirrels, and other, some nest on the tree, some live in the tree, whatever it is. It's amazing all the things that a tree can do overall, huh?
Absolutely.
And we forget about that sometimes. We forget about that.
And trees like oak trees are host plants for many beneficial insects, which birds rely on. So, that's something you don't think of. Like when you think of an oak tree, you think of it's a home for animals. They can build nests in it, and you think of the acorns that animals can eat. But you don't think about the fact that hundreds of beneficial insects, including butterflies and moths, use the oak tree as a host plant and rely on it.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I want to show some of our lovely viewers some more of your fabulous works. This is the Eastern Woodland Wildflowers and Trees. Tell us about this one, Melanie.
Yeah, so that's also a book about Sugarloaf Mountain. The mountain is, because it's near Washington and Baltimore, hundreds of thousands of people go there every year, and it's a place that people love. Like people propose marriage there. They scatter their loved ones' ashes. It's just that kind of place. It's very magnetic and welcoming. So I wrote this book about the trees and wildflowers to help people learn about, what they were seeing when they were on the mountain. So it was a companion book to the Sugarloaf book.
And illustrated as well, illustrated guide.
Yes, by my friend Tina Themey Brown, who's so talented. She's illustrated 3 of my books, the 2 Sugarloaf books, and she illustrated the cover of Finding Solace at Theodore Roosevelt Island with the kingfisher on the cover.
That one.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's Tina. That's Tina's work.
Now, for anybody that's watching, that's not familiar with Theodore Roosevelt Island, let them know, where that is located, where it's positioned.
Yeah, so it's right in Washington, D.C. It's amazing. It's, if you know Georgetown, it's in the Potomac River, between Georgetown and the Virginia shore, Roslyn, Virginia, in Arlington County. It's a mile and a half from the White House. It's just amazing. And it's a place that very few people have heard of. But, to people who live in this city, it's just such a welcome refuge for us.
Christine in North Carolina says this conversation is so fascinating, and all those sharing stories in the comments, all the lovely viewers. And I love, I'm a very interactive person. I like to bring, which you and I were talking about before we went live on the air, I like to bring people in and unify, and you and I could just be chatting, and I could be hosting and you could be the guest, but I love bringing in the world, because I think everybody learns. We all have different nuances that we can share, like the viewers are, as they're hearing you and I chat, they're sharing and opening up about their lives as well, which I think is spectacular.
And that's just the kind of communication we need more of in the world. And, it's what I love to do on my nature walks too, because on every walk, there is so much knowledge. People, in a group of people, there is so much knowledge. And if you just open it up so that everybody can share, everybody learns and benefits.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Have another one here that we want to share. And City of Trees. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so this was my very first book when I moved to Washington, and I had talked about this before.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with the trees, and I wanted to know what they were, because we have over 300 species of them. And, coming from northern New England, I knew maybe 10 of them. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to be learning about them, teaching, when you learn something fresh, that's the time to teach it, because it's like, what you needed to learn. And so you can share that with others. So yeah, I was in my 20s. This is the 3rd edition of City of Trees. I was in my 20s when the first one came out. And my friend Polly Alexander, who I went to college with at the University of Vermont, illustrated it. And we had a lot of fun. And the other thing, I've had such wonderful collaborations on all of my books, working with artists and photographers. I love that. I love that exchange of creative energy, you know, with the written word and the visual images.
It's telling a story, isn't it? It's telling a story.
And when you can collaborate with somebody who's creative that you get on the same wavelength with, it's very, very rewarding.
The complete first guide to the trees of Washington, D.C. What did you learn while you were putting this together about the trees of Washington, D.C.? What makes, if there are things that do, what makes the trees of Washington, D.C. perhaps stand out, different, unique to maybe other areas? Is it where they're positioned, where they're located? Is it the importance of the buildings that surround them, the importance of the city being the capital of the United States, freedom, all of that? I imagine there's a lot of different things that are wrapped up in the importance of the trees, the location of the trees, the beauty of the trees, and the trees themselves.
Absolutely. Everything you said. And the city was designed by Pierre L'Enfant, working with George Washington, who I understand you might be related to somehow. And they, I mentioned that Washington was a real tree lover, and L'Enfant and Washington working together made sure that trees were woven into the original design of the city. So they left lots of space for tree-lined avenues, for trees around all the public buildings. So it was built into our design right from the beginning. Also, we are kind of on the border of the north and south. So we've got a lot of northern and southern trees overlapping here. And we're also on the border of two regions, the hilly Piedmont region and the flat coastal plain. And those overlap here too. So we have like an incredibly botanically diverse tree population to begin with. And then people brought their favorite trees from all over the world. It just became a thing in Washington right from the beginning that, if you moved here from Europe or from, some other part of the world, you brought your favorite trees with you. So we just have, really amazing trees for a lot of reasons.
It's amazing too. You talk about resilience. A tree, as best as it can be, trees age like everything does in life generally. The resilience, how they, like we have a tree out here, a birch tree, and like you, we had a snowstorm last year where the snow was of the heavier kind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you, she's like, oh yeah, not that. You know what I mean? Where it's so heavy that the branches start bending, and birch trees, as beautiful as they are, coming up this way and shooting out this way, they're not they're beautiful with the white bark and everything, and beautiful in the summer, the way they flow and everything, but they're not exactly the strongest tree. And they tend to be like weeping willows, shallow rooted, so they can uproot. But there's a tree we have out in the front yard that is unbelievably resilient. It's like the bounce back kid. There was so much snow on the branches. One particular branch sort of goes like this. One particular branch had so much snow on it, it was totally twisted like a circle and bent down towards the driveway. And I'm like, that's gonna snap. We're gonna lose half this beautiful birch tree that's been growing for years. That thing's gonna snap. I gotta go. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, while it's still snowing, I'm out there brushing that heavy wet snow off. The tree itself, because it had that bend, stayed sort of, it didn't go right back up. It was conforming to the bend that was happening. So it took a while for it to sort of bounce back. But I got the snow off, more started to come on. I come out at 4:30 in the morning. I didn't get sleep that night. 4:30 in the morning, I come out, taking the snow off. And it took a couple of days, but on its own, it started to come back up just like that, and it bounced back. So the resilience, maybe it would have done that on its own. Maybe the snow might have eventually melted. I helped it along, which I know you would be out there like, I'm not going to bed yet. You guys go to bed. I got to take the snow off this tree. Look at the tree's bent over. It's going to snap. We're going to lose it. Caring for the tree, worrying about the tree. When it's windy out, when there's a storm, I'm always looking out at the trees and always looking out at the foliage, like, oh, I hope this tree survives and I hope that one survives. And you're thinking about it and you're trying to find ways to protect them. But it paid dividends because the tree, by it sort of bouncing back on its own after I took the snow off, created more growth and shoots within just a couple of months of that in the springtime, the summertime. And that tree looks better than ever. It's sort of like as if it knew that I wanted it to remain and I was caring for it. So now I'm going to pay you back by really, it was the best year ever last year, as horrific as 2020 was. The tree didn't look better than then.
Wow, that is such a wonderful story of collaborative resilience. The tree had natural resilience that you aided and abetted and worked with that tree. That's a wonderful story. Wonderful story, Jim.
Do you have stories like that? Have you saved trees? Have you gone out there to, I can tell from your face. That's a yes. Jim, I have a long list, I can tell you, of rescue operations.
Yes. I'm thinking of, there's right next to Nana, the Tulip Tree with Nana's Lap in Rock Creek Park. There was a tree that came down on a young beech tree and bent it over. And I tried to move it and I couldn't move it on my own. And it just was tearing me up because the tree was totally healthy, but it was bent over. So on one of my nature walks in the park, I got the whole group to move it. It took a whole group to move it and we saved that tree. Yeah.
That's it. It's you just get attached to it and you just feel, like it's not just a civic, but just like almost a humanistic duty to save the tree. I mean, because the tree provides such beauty and comfort and all these different things. Here's a girl, the joy of forest bathing. Tell us about this one. And everybody's also commenting on, they love the covers of your books as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, those are these wonderful artists that I've worked with. Now, this artist, Leek Vandervorst, I have never met, as I mentioned, because we saw that Willie was from the Netherlands at the top of the show. This is a really talented artist in the Netherlands who, when she was a little girl, her family would pack them all, her parents would pack the whole family into a van and they'd drive to Provence and camp in the lavender fields in Provence. And that's where she developed her love of nature. So the book is filled with these whimsical artworks of leeks. And this is a guide to forest bathing. So if you want to do your own forest bathing walks, this will tell you how to do it. I have instructions in the resilience book as well. And I mean, it's not rocket science. It's basically just slowing down. You want to unplug. I tell people, think of the airplane mode setting on your phone as forest bathing mode. You want to unplug from screens, be in nature, breathe deeply, and then just tune in with all your senses. And there are different ways to do that. And then you kind of want to transition back to your daily life too, because you get into this kind of blissful state and then you start thinking about your to-do list and, everything waiting for you. So we have ways of having a snack and a cup of tea and, reading or reciting some poetry and, bringing yourself back to your daily routine. So that book also I wrote after my forest bathing trip in Japan. So it's got a lot of the Japanese wisdom that I picked up when I was there.
That's fantastic. What would be one or two things, and then we encourage folks to get the books and we'll show the website as well. But what are one or two things maybe you can share that you did pick up while in Japan, some of that wisdom?
Yeah. Well, I learned this really cool trick. And, you know, because you're near the ocean, you can do this. What you do, you can do this with a flowing stream, a waterfall, even a fountain in the city, any kind of flowing water. You stand with your back to the water, and you cup your ears in the front and close your eyes. And it magnifies the sound of the water like you wouldn't believe. And it tunes out the rest of the sounds in the world, and you just kind of become one with that flowing water. When Senator Bill Bradley interviewed me on his Sirius XM radio show, I told him about that trick that I had learned in Japan. And he then went out into Rockefeller Center. There was a fountain there. I think it was in Rockefeller Center. And he did it. You know, he did it. He recorded it and he did it on the air. It was really cool. So that's a very fun thing that I learned. I also learned to really tune into smells, you know, not just flowers, but many twigs and leaves and, you know, the smell of the earth. If you just pick up, if you can safely pick up a handful of earth and smell it, you know, that is really, really wonderful. And then they would, some of the guides would give us these, they would carry around these silver fabric mats and give them to us so that we could lie down under the trees and just look up into the branches of the trees. And if you can lie on the ground and look up into the crown of a tree with the sky beyond it, that is just a wonderful thing to do.
You know, I look at trees almost in the same way that I look at buildings, in looking up and looking at the crown and each branch, each level is like a floor.
The architecture, yeah.
The architectural background. So I'm the one that's in a city with friends, family, colleagues, and I'll say, look up, look what you see when you look up. It's incredible. And I have this one picture that I've posted on social media where I was, one of the most beautiful things, especially in the fall, and you know, coming from New England and just we're blessed in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic to have the fall foliage changes, and the Midwest as well. When I was amongst these very tall trees, and it was in a forest setting, but there was sun peeking through them.
Yes.
Creating these great, I'll be somebody who will probably the first one in the group, unless you're in the group too, that will spot that and have to, get a shot of it and everything else. And it was incredible because it was fall and you had all these different silhouettes and all these different colors of the oranges and of the red and the green and the yellow and the gold and the brown, sort of changing colors. It was like a kaleidoscope because as the slight wind that was wafting through the leaves and the branches was moving the trees, you were looking up and you were seeing essences of the sun peeking through, but it was also changing the lighting and the shading on the trees' leaves, all these monster trees. So I took this shot bent down of me looking completely straight up at the tops of the trees. You saw the huge bark and the trunks, but then looking straight up with almost, it was really incredible. It was as if the trees purposely grew in a way where there was a round circle opening where light came through and the sun came through and the blue sky came through. Like the leaves grew up to a certain point in a circular way, so light and sun and warmth would come through as if they knew that. And stunning photo that I shared. But I imagine when you're going through areas like that, you're seeing things like that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's art, nature is art. It's the original art and it's all around us. And in the fall, not just looking up into the trees, but looking on the ground, at the leaves that have fallen. Everything is a tapestry that changes all the time. So, if you open your eyes, there's so much that you can witness and enjoy. And, and I think now when so many forms of entertainment are cut off for us, we can't go to the movies, we can't go bowling, we can't go to restaurants, but nature is endlessly entertaining as well as rejuvenating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's another book here, A Year in Rock Creek. Tell us about that one.
So that is a book I spent my year of record was the year 2007. And I spent the whole year going to Rock Creek Park almost every day and writing about it. So I write about the changes of the seasons. And we do have 4 very dramatic seasons here in Washington. The book is mostly, a love letter to this amazing park. But I also have some, serious climate change concerns that run through it. I started the book on New Year's Day when we had one of our first really weird, warm, wet winters. And this little wildflower called Spring Beauty that isn't supposed to bloom until March was in bud on New Year's Day. And then it bloomed in early January. And it was very alarming to me. So I do, in all of my books, when my personal books, they contain a lot of joy, but I also have my concerns, my very deep concerns especially about climate change that are woven in to the writing. But it's a very personal, it's kind of a nature memoir. It's a very personal book.
Do you have other books in the offing that you are looking to share and pen down the pike?
I am right now. I love to be creative in the wintertime. There's something about hibernating in the winter that, makes me just want to kind of pull in and be creative. And, I did have 2 books published last year. And what I want to do right now is focus on poetry. So I'm trying to, write poetry and just kind of live in that poetic realm where the poetry comes. So that's what I'm working on now. I don't know what my next book will be. And that's the fun of being a writer, because you get these inspirations that just kind of come out of the ether and, when you least expect them. And then, that's the next project. And, right now I'm just like kind of in this poetry groove.
Tell us about the poetry. That's exciting. What kinds of poetry?
Yeah, I don't have much to share yet. But, some of my favorite poets are Mary Oliver, who you may be familiar with. She's written incredible nature poems. Joy Harjo is our poet laureate, our U.S. poet laureate. She's the first Native American poet laureate that we've had. I love her poetry. So I've been reading them a lot. I like to immerse myself, really. So I'm really immersed right now in Mary Oliver and Joy Harjo.
So are there areas also that you would like to travel to that you haven't had a chance to travel to yet? Whether it's for forest bathing or anything else tied into nature and the wonderful work that you do, Melanie?
Yeah, so I would like to see all of the national parks. I've visited many of them. And there are so many parts of the world that I'd like to visit. And when I do travel, I love to visit cities and, immerse myself in the culture of any place. But I really like to see the natural beauty. And wherever I go, I have to identify the trees. It's just like this little bug that I have. So the first thing I do, I never shop, for clothes or anything, knickknacks. But I go right to the bookstores and I get the books about the trees and the birds and the butterflies of any area where I am, and just want to soak up as much as I can.
And that's a beautiful thing to be able to do that. And the work that you do, what inspires you to continue to do this work in terms of the blessings and the joys that it gives you, not only professionally, Melanie, but personally?
Yeah, so it's I love to share. the first time that I went to the Badlands of North Dakota, I went out there to give a lecture at a college out there. And then I added some extra time and I went to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And I was sitting in my little rental car with a whole herd of bison around me.
Wow.
And, these beautiful rock formations. And I just thought, I want to bring people here. So I started leading trips there. And I do that every September now for Smithsonian Associates. We had to cancel last year because of COVID, and we're hoping to go this September. But it's that feeling of, wanting to share the beauty. I just love sharing my love of nature with other people and feeling their love back. It's a very lovey kind of a thing.
Isn't it?
It is.
I wanted to show you a couple of photos I dug up while we were chatting about how trees can provide such beautiful solace, peace, and beauty. Some shots that I've taken over the, last couple of years.
Oh, that is gorgeous. Is that a Japanese maple?
That is, yeah. Isn't that something?
And I can see not only the bright colors, but I can see the architecture of the branching a little bit, of the dark branches.
Exactly.
Really stunning. Is that a tree that grows near you?
Yes, exactly. And it's near water and sort of like a pond. And that's a keen comment that you made as far as seeing the architectural. When I do take the photos, I think I probably do it with everything. I see it from the architectural eye in terms of the shading, the shaping, the lighting. There's another one there.
Oh, are those sugar maples?
That is, yeah.
There's a white pine tree there. That's beautiful. See, that makes me homesick for New England.
And you see the way the leaves that have fallen off sort of dot the street and the side, and then the greenery comes in. Here's another one.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Where is that?
That's actually in Connecticut along the coast.
Beautiful. Look at the color of the water. Oh my gosh, that is just gorgeous. Wow.
Yeah, I enjoy, photography as well. Thank you very much, Karen. And when you get a chance to do that, it's really, you just see, this is all, I tell everybody, it's all free. It's right outside. It's there. And
that's the thing. It's free. It's free and it's available to us now. Many things we can't do right now, but we can connect with the beauty of nature. It's there for us.
What are a few things that you would say are things that you've learned about life, about nature, that really stand out for you the most, Melanie, through this extraordinary body of work and this extraordinary career that you have and have had and continue to have? It's, pun intended, it's breathtaking.
Yeah, it's just, there's beauty everywhere. The interconnectedness of life, the seasonal changes, there are predictable seasonal changes, and then there are always these delightful surprises. And I love flowers, but the flower is prelude to the fruit. So, I love to tune into all different kinds of fruit and all the different plants. And when I say fruit, you usually think of like a juicy fruit, but a lot of fruits are dry, like pods and acorns and nuts. And I love, I just love all the seasons. And you talked about the different times of day. That, it's just an endlessly changing, beautiful world. And it breaks my heart to think of all the people who don't tune into the beauty that is all around them. If I'm in Rock Creek Park, I see a great blue heron flying in. I see, all these wonders. And I think of, I hear owls calling in the evening, and I think of people who are missing it. If they're in their houses, they're missing all of these amazing occurrences. So it's all around us, and all we need to do is just tune in. And And you know, it's a great privilege to be here, to be alive now. There are a lot of people who came before us. There will be a lot of people who come after us. We are here now. And, you know, and it is our birthright to appreciate natural beauty.
That's exactly what I say all the time as well. That's beautifully said, and it's very important for us to remember that, because oftentimes we, like I said in the top of the show, we get so busy in our day-to-day lives that we forget about, again, the things that are right around us. And sometimes that's forgetting about each other as, you know, humans, and we forget about the animals. We just forget about, and because we have to get that inbox clear, we got to answer those voicemail messages. We get bogged down with some of the craziness of everyday living, that we sort of forget about some of the things that are around us that are there really to provide a balance to it all, right? A balance. We need balance.
We do. And I had a little epiphany a couple years ago. There's this rock next to Rock Creek that I call the meditation rock, that I love to sit on and just watch the birds flying down the creek and the leaves floating on the surface. And you know, I was sitting on this rock, and I had this realization that I would never consider that wasted time. I would never consider it wasted time when I'm sitting on that meditation rock or I'm sitting in Nana's lap. But I could sit at my computer for 5 hours and get all kinds of stuff done and be very productive and industrious. And then I could get up after those 5 hours and feel like I just wasted 5 hours. You know, time in nature, idle time in nature never feels like time wasted to me.
No.
It feels like this is where I was meant to be, and this is what I was meant to be doing right now.
Exactly right. Exactly right. If folks want to learn more about the extraordinary publications and more, is it your website that they go to?
Yes, so that is my website, and my books are there, and my upcoming events. I have 2 events on the site now that are going to happen in February, and I hope there are live links to register for them. And then I will have many more events in the next 3 months or so.
What kinds of events are coming up? It sounds exciting.
So I think on February 18th, I'm doing something for the Aspen Center for Environmental Studies. And it's going to be a program about finding and establishing a wild home. So, you know, a lot of what we've been talking about now, I'll be, you know, addressing it a little bit more practically. I'll also be sharing photos of my trip to Japan, and my forest bathing walks out in Aspen.
So this is a complete online experience?
Yeah, this is totally virtual. And then I have another, you know, the cool thing is that you can, you know, it's kind of a silver lining of the pandemic. Everybody from all over can participate in virtual events. And then I'm doing a program about Theodore Roosevelt Island. It'll be like a virtual tour of the island. And I'm doing that in February as well. I think that's February 27th. For Politics and Prose Bookstore, which is our, you know, premier independent bookstore here. And I'll be doing a lot of other things. I'm doing Forest Bathing 101 in March for Smithsonian Associates. I'm doing a program on City of Trees for them. I'm doing a lot of virtual events. I'm doing a few in the field for very small groups. We wear masks, we stay socially distant, but a lot of my stuff now is online. And then all of my books are available on Amazon. And I have, I have information about them on my website. So that's probably the best way to connect with me. I don't do too much on social media, but my website should have all the essential information.
What would you say to somebody who's watching right now, who's fascinated? I've been seeing a lot of comments. People are fascinated by this conversation, and they're loving it. I think the timing of it is ideal, and they just really, you know, they're being moved by the conversation and the depth of our conversation, which, as you and I talked about before we went live on the air, I love doing that. I love to go deep. I love to really share. And If somebody is interested in pursuing, maybe there's a young person or anybody at any age pursuing this type of work, any advice, any thoughts about going into the similar line of work like you're doing?
Yes, and there are many ways you can approach it. You can study environmental science. You can study any sort of naturalist activity, botany, ornithology, any aspect of nature. You can learn a lot on your own. You can really learn a lot on your own. There are apps now. There's this wonderful app called iNaturalist that you can use it to just take a picture of anything that you see, and it will help you identify it. Find organizations that do nature education. So almost every state has a native plant society, and in non-COVID times, they lead free walks where you can go out with an expert and learn all about the plants in your region. There's the Audubon Society, the Audubon Naturalist Society. There are all sorts of resources if you want to get involved and learn about nature. And then if you want to go on a forest bathing walk, I would suggest just Googling that in your area. And, there are forest bathing guides all over the country now. And a lot of them are doing walks virtually. I am doing forest bathing walks virtually. I'm doing a few in the field, like I said, for small groups. If you want to train as a forest bathing guide, I suggest you go to the website of the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. And they are doing virtual guide training now. They're not doing it in the field as they usually do, but they are doing it virtually. I know some people who are participating in that. So there's all kinds of ways to get involved. And then the main thing is to just spend time in nature. I mean, it's really what you observe and experience that's the most important thing. And find friends who want to experience nature with you. And, take walks. I mean, you can do this now. You can walk with friends and just stay socially distant and wear your masks and, go out in a nature walk. And it doesn't have to be in a pristine forest. If you live in the city, there are probably parks right near where you live and gardens that you can visit. And get to know your backyard if you're lucky enough to have a backyard, or your porch or your balcony. Go out on the balcony and watch the clouds. Wherever you are, you can find a connection with nature.
That's right. Beautifully said. It's so true. And this was really amazing. We said we'd chat maybe an hour and a half. We've done 2 hours. Would you believe that?
Wow. Time flies when you're talking about nature, doesn't it?
It does. And everybody that comes on the show, they just can't believe how, the time flies. Try to make a warm, comfortable environment for everybody and all this, the levity from the viewers. It's obvious that you are very blessed and you're very passionate about what you do and you truly, truly care. If you weren't doing this work, specific to the trees and all, do you think you'd still be in some realm of agriculture, horticulture, whatever it may be, nature itself?
Yeah. It's who I am.
That's who you are. Well, I tell you, this was really amazing. I can't believe that we've gone 2 hours. I encourage folks to definitely make connection and to go to the website and learn more about the books and the events coming up. And you are definitely more than welcome to return, my friend. Very kindred spirits. And when I do come to DC, I'd love to go on one of these excursions and have you guide me and others. That would be fantastic. And, how cool it would be for maybe some of the Lovity viewers to join us and we do like a Lovity.
On a nature walk. That would be awesome.
Some of them have actually suggested that during our conversation.
That would be so cool. I would love that.
A Lovity forest bathing nature walk. Does that not sound pretty inviting?
quite blissful, I think.
Yeah. Similar to the other bathing, the Calgon moment that everybody likes. That'd be fantastic. Well,
Can people watch this? Is there a way to watch our conversation? Is it going to be online?
Yes. If you want to share the link and see it again, absolutely. We'll pull that up. That is right here. So if anybody missed anything about the episode, or they want to see this episode, or all 230 plus episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live, everything is available 24/7 on the YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV. We encourage and welcome folks to subscribe to the channel. That helps the channel grow, and we share that levity. So yeah, it's right there on the YouTube channel, and the link that we sent you direct to the episode on the Jim Masters TV YouTube channel for the show, totally there.
Good.
They'll see the whole thing. I really hope that Melanie, that you enjoyed your time with me as much as I have with you, and the show met whatever expectations that you had, and that you really enjoyed yourself with us. This was a wonderful conversation.
It was wonderful. I loved talking with you, and I loved hearing all the wonderful messages from the loveties.
You love that word, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I can't stop saying it.
That's what happens. I tell you, it was just a mistake, which was a brilliant mistake. I guess it was, a Freudian slip that was a positive one that has stuck. This has been a wonderful evening. Thank you for sharing your love of nature and your experiences with us. From Ann Wozniak, Karen Campbell Green, thank you for being here with us, Melanie. It has been great. Mary Bishop in Florida, wonderful conversation, Melanie and Jim. Take care, Melanie. Maureen says, lovely nature bathing walk, sign me up. Oh, yes. I'd love that. Yes, a lovely tour. Very interesting. Thank you, Melanie. Stay safe from Kathleen in New York City. Mona in Louisiana. I truly enjoyed tonight. It was a great show. Love talking about nature. Love going to the mountains, hiking and camping and being surrounded by nature. Juanita in South Africa. Melanie, this was a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing and spending time with us. Keep well. Karen says she's been on one of those native medicine walks. So very interesting. That sounds really cool too. Again, it can all be very therapeutic. Like Christine Clifton in North Carolina says, nature is so very therapeutic. It can be very therapeutic and very healing. Like I was saying about the trees, if you watch the way a tree is resilient and bounces back, or if a limb is cut off or anything happens, how it sort of heals itself, kind of like we do as humans. There's a lot to learn just surrounding yourself with nature. Karen says, thank you for being here with us. It has been great, Melanie. And it really has, my friend. You, again, are welcome back on our program anytime. Spread the word about the show. Tell others. We would love that. And again, it was a blessing and a joy to have you with us tonight. I thank you for all this time and all your wit and wisdom and knowledge. It was amazing.
Thank you so much, Jim. It was such a pleasure, and the time flew. It was just wonderful.
Went by in a New York minute, didn't it?
It did. I hope everybody stays safe and healthy and gets lots of time in nature.
Well, you know what Judy Wales says? I needed this. Even brought my blood pressure down today.
Good.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Mona, thank you so much, Melanie. I truly enjoyed listening to you. Come to Louisiana and see the swamp tours.
Oh, yes. I love the swamps in Louisiana.
See? You're the best, Melanie. Thanks again. You're a ray of light, and thanks for spending all this time with us on the show. I wish you well. Be safe, you and your family. All the blessings, continued success, and hop on the show again real soon. We'd love that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jim.
You are very welcome. And again, folks, there's the website to check out to learn about all the books, the events, and everything that Melanie has coming up. And she's truly amazing. You have a good night, my friend. You take care.
You too. Good night. Good night, everybody.
I forgot one thing. You have to tell us about the room that you're in. I know they love that.
Oh, yes. So it's my living room. And yeah, this is our fireplace. It hasn't been really cold enough for fires yet. I'm hoping it's going to get really cold and we're going to get a lot of snow. I've got the wood here. I'm ready to make a fire and enjoy it.
And you have that beautiful, you said, painting behind you on the wall there.
Yes, so that's a painting of Sugarloaf Mountain by my friend Scott Brouard. All the art in our house is done by friends and family members, and it's mostly connected with nature.
Got all your books proudly displayed behind you. I love it. Very, very nice. You have a good night and you take care and you be well, okay?
You too, Jim. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
You're
Good
very
night.
welcome. My pleasure. Isn't she amazing? We're so blessed to have her on the show and open up and share about her life, her passions, and how she got started in this extraordinary work and all of the incredible things that she's experienced, not just in the Washington, D.C. area, which is where she's headquartered, but literally all up and down the East Coast, across the country, and other parts of the globe. I love the fact that she wrote this really, really special blog about the trees that are surrounding the Capitol area too, and about how really healing it is to surround yourself with that. Capitol Hill's Witness to History. Again, it really goes back to her when she's talking about how she led several Capitol tree tours a year for the U.S. Botanic Garden under the auspices of the architect of the actual Capitol. And she said her heart was breaking for what, the friends for more than 40 years have witnessed last week in and around, the Capitol, and how horrific that was at the U.S. Capitol. And really an amazing blog. You can find the blog. It's called Capitol Hill's Witness to History. It is really very moving reading, and I encourage you to see it again on her website. She sent it to me earlier today, and I read it immediately and was very moved by it. So I think you will as well. More comments coming in. She is absolutely amazing and such a very interesting conversation tonight. I agree, very much so. Gorgeous. Stay safe and be well, Melanie. Thank you for having Melanie with us. We appreciate that, and appreciate all of you as well. Some of you commented about those photos that are sort of slipped in there of fall, which is a New England fall. So you wanted to see them again. These are just a few of the many, many shots that we took during fall time in New England. Really, really beautiful that time of the year. And again, just surround yourself with nature. We say it all the time here on the show, right? Don't we? We say that quite often. We also say, don't forget to smile and share the smile with others, because smiling is contagious. One of the better things to have contagious in your life. Don't forget to share the levity. We talk about it all the time on the Jim Master Show Live. Find your Zen place. As I mentioned, mine is the ocean first, because of the access to the water, growing up near the water. I love forests. I love, being in nature as well. The ocean speaks to me greatly. Swimming, surfing, boogie boarding, windsurfing, sailing, all of it. And of course, numero uno is time with loving family and friends. That comes first. That's my ultimate Zen place. And then the ocean, and then being in nature around trees, beautiful gardens. Even the desert. Remember I told you about the trip that I took alone after a television shoot? I drove alone through Death Valley, which is stripped earth. There are no trees. There is no comforting Zen ocean. And what an experience that was for me, and how I got in touch with certain aspects of my own being, depending on myself, and the resilience of driving alone in August of about a year and a half ago, after a television shoot, and all the crew left, and I drove alone through Death Valley. Again, raw nature. That is raw nature. But there's certain things that nature does provide that also are a window into your own life. They're a reflection of you in many different ways. If you open up, and you care to open up, and you open your eyes and your heart and your soul to it all, there's some really cool things that nature offers right in front of us. Whether you're in the desert, you're in the mountains, surrounded by, forests, lakes, oceans, It's really amazing. It really is amazing. And then, of course, I mentioned, my work in television and radio and stage and all of the things I've had an opportunity to do and continue to do over the years is another Zen place for me. So find your Zen places, folks, and share that levity with the world. We have another comment coming in here. Karen says, you'll have to tell us about the bracelets now that we know about the ring. Oh, these are gifts. These are actually from various places that I've been in the United States and in Canada. I started, believe it or not, with with a television show that I host. A viewer makes them, and a viewer sent one in to me. I said, Jim, we make these, and we usually have celebrities wear them, so we want to send you one, and it has all these healing properties, and we make them from scratch. So I got one, really enjoyed it, and then people were noticing it. I would go to various places and people would notice the one, and then it felt a little incomplete, so I added another one and another one, and people started sending one or two as a gift. But then every time we were going somewhere, some of them I got while we were on a television project in Europe. Some of them I got in Florida, California, other places. I'd go on a hunt for them. And then because they were on this arm felt naked. It felt, how I talk about balance and harmony? This arm felt unbalanced. So then we started a little bit of a collection there on that arm. And green, the very favorite color. All of them have different meanings and different purposes, and really cool. And I feel very centered and balanced, if that makes any sense, by having them on. There's just something about it. My birthstone is sapphire. Tell you something really quick. You asked about this ring, right? This family heirloom. See if I can bring it in there. This ring, which is pure silver, has 2 sapphires on each side and a diamond in the middle. Again, this was my father's uncle's. This was custom made in New York City back in the 1930s. The Masters family used to own jewelry stores in Manhattan way back when they came over from England and Ireland. So you see the 2 sapphires, right? You see a big hand too. Excuse the hand. But you see the 2 sapphires, you see the diamond and the silver. It's got a very Art Deco design to it, doesn't it? One of a kind. I've never seen anything like this. But 2 sapphires are real, the diamond is real, and so is the silver. What's amazing about this is this was handed down the line from my father's uncle to my dad. My dad, he has always worn this on his pinky, and then he has given it to me. And so I wear it on the pinky as well. It's, it's the one thing you never want to lose and you're always checking for it because it's a family heirloom. And the amazing thing about it is the 2 sapphires, the stones, are not my father's birthstone. So even though he wore this and then handed this to me not that long ago, it was never his birthstone, yet it's mine. Is that not amazing? It's actually my birthstone, the sapphire. So it was almost destined that when it was first custom made in the 1930s in New York City, my father's uncle worked on Wall Street, Uncle Edward, Eddie. He had it custom made and then always wore it. My father's favorite uncle. And my father's uncle said, here, and took it off his ring and gave it to him. Here, kiddo, you can have it. My father did the same thing. And my father said, hey, kiddo, this is yours. And he gave it to me. And it turns out that this birthstone, the sapphire, is actually my birthstone, sapphire, September. Quite amazing, isn't it? Quite amazing. Yes, healing properties for these things. It was amazing. I was at a place in New York City called 54 Below, and I was emceeing a concert for a friend because I also do Master of Ceremonies emceeing. And it was amazing. They were serving dinner and cocktails while the person that I emceed for was performing. So I did the introductions and the whole bit. I'm off to the side, and this waiter Now it's sort of like dark. You can't even really like see because all the emphasis is on the stage and on the performer. And I'm standing off to the side because I'm the master of ceremonies, the MC, the host. And I feel somebody like yank my arm, and it's the waiter. And he was a very friendly guy, and he's always there. And obviously I don't know, obviously, since it's closed right now, how he's doing. I hope he's doing well. But he grabbed my arm. He said, and he didn't say a word. He just goes, and he showed me that he had one of these around his. And then later on, when the whole evening was over and I was done emceeing and the performance ended and people were clearing out a little bit, we were still finishing our dinner with our group of friends that were at the table who joined me. He comes over and he sits down and he starts talking about these and how he finds them very healing and all of these different properties. But it was amazing. He was able to spot it because I had a suit and tie on and you could hardly even see it, but somehow he knew that it was on my wrist. Really amazing. Healing properties, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you as well. What I like about it is it's a family heirloom, that it's like a one-of-a-kind, custom-made for the family, and it was passed down and passed down and passed down. I think that's, family heirlooms are some of the most beautiful things. And Melanie is incredible with a lovety heart. I agree, gang. And she's full of wonderful knowledge too. Beautiful conversation we had this evening. Another great show. Thank you, gang. I'm glad you loved it, Christine. Thanks for those kind words. Sapphire, my birthstone, and I love it. Maureen's as well. The ring and the healing of this and the ring and the family heirloom and everything that Melanie was talking about this evening. It's all sort of tied together, isn't it? Like we say on the show often, the constants in life, this is a constant, surround yourself with the constants of life. And Juanita says, I'm going to be surrounding myself with nature. So we'll see you all Sunday night again. Did not break a leg after all. Keep well, everyone. Thanks, Jim, for another inspiring show. Juanita, send me some of those photos too that you were talking about. Love to show them on the show. I think we'll do a whole show maybe about nature and about the areas where we are. And we can show that like on a weekend show or something. Make it a weekend show about some of the constants in life and the beauty of nature. Thank you so much for tonight, Jim. I truly enjoyed it. The show, very relaxing. Thank you very much. I love nature as well. She's a beautiful person. Wow, pictures are beautiful. You look great tonight too. See you tomorrow night. My hair is getting long, isn't it? Short. That guy, it's short. Terry Woolman, did you see when he was on? The brilliant, incredible guitarist and musician. He said he hasn't cut his hair since March either. I want to see if I can make it to March. I have to get through February, and then maybe I agree. Absolutely amazing. Such a very interesting conversation tonight. Thank you very much. Absolutely. You got that too. And thank you for all these wonderful comments. Glad you guys enjoyed the show. Like I said, the Jim Master Show Live is something different for everybody. We don't do the same thing every night. We don't have the same topics. We don't have the same guests and the same themes. We do something different every single day. And variety is truly the spice of life, isn't it, gang? Variety is the spice of life. Very healing. Good night, Jim and lovely friends. Wishing everyone a very good night filled with lots of happy dreams. Very special family heirloom. You know I love long hair. We'll send you some, Jim, as well. Fantastic. Don't forget, as you're going out in nature, whatever it is you're doing that pleases you in life, to relax. Take care of one another, love one another, and take care of you. Make sure you love yourself. I know we're in interesting times right now, to say the least, right? Interesting times. We could do a whole show on the interesting times we've had. But relax, take care of one another, love one another, and take time for yourself. Go out in nature. Do some of the things that Melanie talked about this evening on our broadcast. And share the levity. relax, and you can definitely relax when you're out in nature, right? All your friends are here, and we toast all of you and tell you about a couple of guests coming up tomorrow. It's going to be a brilliant show. There's going to be live music and an incredible performance by, yes, renowned pianist and violinist, musician, composer, arranger, David Shenton is on our show tomorrow. His wife is also going to join. She's going to sing. He's going to play. It's going to be amazing, filled with music and levity, all the things you love about the Jim Masters Show Live tomorrow night. That is Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Jim Masters Show Live. That is Friday, a great evening of music. Renowned pianist, violinist, composer, arranger, David Shenton is going to be performing, and his wife is also going to sing. She's a brilliant, renowned singer as well. Then on Saturday, George Paris, live and direct from Athens, Greece, French Greek singer, very popular. He's going to be with us on Saturday, this Saturday, at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern European time. That's in Greece. That's going to be exclusively on our YouTube channel, so check that out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel at Jim Masters TV, we would love if you did it. And be sure that you click the notification bell so you don't miss any of the posts we do, not just for the Jim Masters Show Live, but there's other content we load up on that YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV. So George is here on Saturday, and then that's one of those two-show double lovety days because Grammy-winning, incredible pianist, composer, arranger, and musician John Prue is going to be with us. And he's all excited. He's going to perform live as well. That is going to be this Saturday night live. That's right, Saturday Night Live. Where have I heard that before? So that is this Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. More music coming your way. It's really a couple of days of music there because you have David Shenton tomorrow night live, performing live. Then on Saturday, you have George Paris live. Then Saturday night, Grammy-winning composer, musician, pianist, the incredible John Prue is going to be here live. Then on Sunday, Nathan Carter is all excited. He's going to be here live as well. And that's going to be on our YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV, Sunday the 17th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, 8 p.m. GMT. So that's 8 p.m. in Ireland, Scotland, and England. Ireland's leading country music singer Nathan Carter is going to be here exclusively on our show this Sunday. I know many of you have been waiting for all of those guests to appear, and they are going to be here. Coming up soon, Rebecca Harkin is going to be here as well. We're very excited about that. Wonderful actor and singer Sam Harris is joining us. Julie Budd is going to be with us. Brilliant actress and singer Julie Budd's going to be with us next week. Coming up soon, in a matter of, I think, just 2 weeks, Anson Williams, who played Potsy on Happy Days, is going to be with us live on the Jim Masters Show Live as well. And so much more, so much more. We've got an incredible year of lots of levity and lovity coming your way. And we thank once again our very, very special guest who joined us tonight, Melanie Choukas-Bradley, award-winning naturalist, writer, teacher, and certified forest therapy guide. She's renowned. She's brilliant at what she does, and she was really a delight to have on the show. And again, if you would like to learn more about the incredible books and all the other things that are going on, feel free to check out her tremendous website. We appreciate her joining us live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and we appreciate all of you as well. And Bernadette says, good night, Jim and Lovely. Stay safe and stay well. And Kathleen Walker says, I had to find some bracelets like yours. Love them. Have a great night, Jim. Yeah, these are sort of ambidextrous. These are non-gender. So, you know, I went with the darker ones, but, you know, male, female, absolutely. Got our Relax sign in Newport, Rhode Island, at a shop in Newport, Rhode Island. That's where we got that sign. And Cool stuff. Christine Clifton in North Carolina says, Jim, thanks for this terrific show tonight. Good night, Jim, and all the lovelies. Take care and stay safe out there. Still needing global levity. We should love our world and each other. And I agree 110%. Absolutely. And you can find the levity right here on the Jim Masters Show Live, and make sure you share it with the world. Oh, you have a friend who makes these in Nova Scotia, the bracelets and all. That's cool. Appreciate that. Really, really nice. And, I've actually been interviewed, which is an interesting thing when the tide is turned and you're being interviewed. It's really kind of cool. At first, for some people that are doing hosting and interviewing and all, they're uncomfortable because it's just new to them. But I've had it happen several times. It's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. It all depends on the personality of the individual that's doing that work. Some people like to chat and some people don't chat as much. So if the person's doing the chatting with you, hopefully they're a conversationalist, All right. So we say good night. We say thank you for joining us. Again, incredible shows coming up in the next few nights. We thank all of you for joining us on the Jim Masters Show Live, wherever you live, all around the world. It's always a blessing and it's a true joy to have you here. We thank you for your time. We thank you for the levity. Very interesting and fascinating topic this evening. And I hope you learned something. I hope you were entertained and put a couple of smiles on your face as well. And I hope you join us again. We'll be here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, just for you and you and you and you and you and you. The entire gang of levities that continues to grow all around the world on the Jim Masters Show Live. Good night, gang. Go get some rest. Have a hot cup of coffee, or not coffee. Well, it depends on where you are. If it's the morning in Australia, New Zealand, you can have that cup of coffee. But if it's late night, don't have it. It'll keep you up. Maybe a nice cup of cocoa. I think we're going to have that cup of cocoa. Have a wonderful evening, Jim and Lovedies. It's always wonderful to spend time with you. It's always wonderful to spend time with you, Maureen, as well. You have a good evening. Good night, Jim and Lovedies. Stay safe. You as well. Thanks, gang. You're the best. Thanks for joining us here on the show. Again, we love this topic and the conversation that we've had. And we love having all of you here as well. Great show. Jen is Zen in Allentown, Pennsylvania. She's going to do her couch wiggles now when the music starts. We thank all of you. Jim Masters, thank you for your time this time. Till next time. Great show tonight, wasn't it? Fascinating. Really, really was. And you know us, we hate to say goodnight, but we will. Might even have a little snack too. I'm hungry talking about all this stuff. Works up an appetite, doing this show. Good night, gang. Love you all. I hope you stay safe. You be well, you and your family. Hang in there. We're all in this together. This is your safe spot every day to come, to enjoy, to share, and to celebrate life in all the different ways we do. Together, you and I, that's numero uno, you and me. And then we bring in these fascinating guests from around the world who do wonderful things. And I love it. I'm loving it. And good night, Karen. You as well. Stay safe up there in Nova Scotia. Good night, everybody. You're the best. Continue to share the levity. Tell everybody about our show. Share the links. Have watch parties. Tell people about the YouTube channel and everything else. If you want to know where I am, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, Facebook. I forget anything? All at Jim Masters TV. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, gang. Love you all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.